For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Ottested. The death toll in Gaza has topped 9,200. More than 3,800 are children, as Israeli soldiers encircle Gaza, putting the enclave into a chokehold. According to Gaza's health ministry spokesperson Dr. Arshaf Al-Qudra, the remaining hospitals operating are about to shut down due to lack of fuel. His comments translated by Al Jazeera.
As a result, over the past few days, we lost many victims who were critically wounded. Al-Shifa Hospital and the Indonesian hospital, the key generators have come to a stop. Now we are working on secondary generators where only 3 critical services can be sustained. This is the intensive care units, baby-born incubators, and surgical operation rooms. The remaining units and wards of the hospitals remain without electricity.
He's calling on Turkey to help provide care to patients at the Turkish Friendship Hospital and help deliver fuel there. He says 12 patients have died due to its closure. Meanwhile, an Israeli airstrike has hit the Al-Shifa Hospital's front gate as a convoy of ambulances was reportedly preparing to leave towards the Rafah border, crossing into Egypt with patients. Al Jazeera is reporting at least 15 people are dead. Al-Shifa is the largest and one of the few remaining hospitals operating in Gaza, where thousands have sought refuge amidst Israel's bombardment. Israel also struck the Al-Quds hospital gate days after threatening to launch an attack. The strike comes as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Israel to urge a humanitarian pause in the fighting with Hamas.
We provided Israel advice that only the best of friends can offer on how to minimize civilian deaths while still achieving its objectives of finding and finishing Hamas terrorists and their infrastructure of violence.
The World Health Organization says the situation is escalating in Gaza into a humanitarian and health crisis. Here's WHO Director Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus.
We're running out of words to describe the horror unfolding in Gaza. Hospitals crammed with the injured lying in corridors, morgues overflowing, doctors performing surgery without anesthesia.
He says they verified 237 attacks on healthcare, 19 of them were in Israel. Meanwhile, in the U.S., a lawsuit was filed against the Biden administration Thursday to force it to do more to evacuate the Palestinian Americans stuck in Gaza. Jordan Del Fugio reports.
Ghassan Sami is a San Francisco attorney. He represents the families of 2 elderly Palestinian American women who were in Gaza visiting family when the war broke out and are now stuck there.
We filed these lawsuits in hopes that this will finally provoke the State Department to take action to bring these U.S. citizens back home.
The lawsuit also calls on the State Department to provide the same treatment for Palestinian and Israeli U.S. citizens. Shami said that Israeli Americans have already been evacuated. Sayed Beseso is one of the defendants. His grandmother is currently living in southern Gaza.
Unfortunately, her home has been bombed, so she got to see it for the last time. She's been moved around 5 times. She has no clean water. She brushes her teeth with salt water and bathes with salt water. She doesn't eat.
I'm Jordan Del Fugio.
President Joe Biden has said 74 more U.S. citizens have left the Gaza Strip. The White House has previously estimated up to 600 U.S. citizens are trapped there. Meanwhile, protests are growing across the nation opposing Israel's attacks on Gaza. Human rights experts are calling it a genocide. In California, activists blocked a U.S. Navy ship at the port of Oakland this morning. They say it will transport weapons to Israel. Vermont Independent Senator Bernie Sanders called for a ceasefire in Gaza, as did Illinois Senator Democrat Dick Durbin. President Joe Biden is hosting leaders from countries across the Americas at the U.S. Capitol today to discuss the tightening of supply chains and migration issues. FSN's Tony Waterman reports.
The U.S. wants to create new financing platforms for countries hosting migrants, money that, along with funding from the private sector and donors, could help help build out competitive regional supply chains, specifically in industries like clean energy, semiconductors, and medical supplies. The aim is to spur economic opportunities in Latin America, so migrants don't come to the United States. Migration flows have reached record highs in recent years, not just along the U.S. southern border, but in Latin America as well. Tony Waterman, Texas.
The president will also travel to Lewiston, Maine, to mourn with community, to visit the community where 18 people were killed in the deadliest mass shooting in the state's history. The president is expected to pay respects to the victims, meet with first responders, and grieve with families and community members impacted by the October 25th shooting. He's called for tougher gun control laws, including a ban on assault weapons. A New York jury has convicted FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried of 7 fraud charges for plotting to steal up to $10 billion worth of cryptocurrency of his customers' accounts. He faces up to 110 years in prison, though he's likely to face far less at a sentencing set for March 28th. I'm Christina Otterstedt, reporting for Pacifica Radio.